Greetings, everybody. My name is Sanjiv Venkatram, and this is me here on LinkedIn. I am with Prudentia Consulting, and as well, I have my channel on YouTube where I do videos pertinent to end usage or end user applications of Microsoft technology. Okay. So with this, I would like to actually do a set of videos on Microsoft Power Platform and specifically on data analysis or and then potentially analytics using Microsoft Power BI, Power Pivot, and Excel. With that, let me actually open up an Excel file that we will study for a little bit and actually bring into Power BI to look at how we can access data from different sources, transform them, and actually do a bunch of analytics on them. So this Excel file here has got 5 tabs: sales SMT and sales other pertain to sales data, cost SMT and cost other pertain to cost data, and I have a free sheet here with raw data that we'll get into shortly. Now, if you look at the sales SMT data, it's got sales data for a set of products in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand across different dates. And you notice that the data is in a bit of a flat file format, except that it's been made into a table. The sales other data is exactly the same. It's very similar to sales SMT, except the data is for Indonesia. The cost SMT data, if you stare at this for a second, looks like an output or a cut and paste from a pivot table. And technically as well, this format is called a pivoted format. And then the cost other data is in a flat file format in a table, though, for Indonesia. Okay. So how do we create a table? It is a best practice to actually create a table from flat data in Excel. So I'm going to select this, insert, and actually make a table out of it with this clearly has headers. And then if I go to design, I can actually change the name of the table. And in case you want to give it two names, such as sales, SMT, you would have to put an underscore and not a space. It doesn't accept spaces. Okay. So I'm just going to undo this as I already have my tables here. And I'm going to save this data and close this. Okay. Now let's open up Power BI. Now, Power BI has got three. I'm going to actually pin this for a second. So Power BI, if I go from left to the right, has on the left-hand side a bar on which you see a report view, which is this wonderful canvas here. Then you have a data view in which the data, one can actually see the data. And finally, a model view in which you actually see a schema, as you can see from this example. Okay. Now, up top, you have a bunch of menus. The ones on the left actually pertain to getting data and transforming data. The ones in the middle have got something to do with buttons to ask questions or what have you. On the right-hand side, you have a few menus to actually create measures, which are like formulas in Excel. And then finally, this one that actually takes this on-premise, how do you say, desktop application, and then publishes this whole thing to the web, okay, to powerbi.com. Now, as I said, there is a beautiful canvas in which you can, you paint, you bring your visualizations, and then, you present views, succinct views. On the right-hand side, you have different visuals that you can bring into the canvas. And finally, the fields of data that we're gonna import now, okay? With this, let's get started. When I say get data, I get data from different sources. And as you can see, we'll give it a minute for it to load up the full menu. And as you can see, there are a plethora of sources from which one can actually bring data into Power BI. So as an example, Azure SQL Database is my favorite. And then you've got Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft Exchange. You can even get it from Exchange, SharePoint, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm going to just choose Excel here and connect, and then select my file, and then open it. It goes away and actually brings up this little editor or navigator from which we can actually check the data that's come in and then bring it into what is called as Power Query that I'll get into in a second. So as you can see, all the tables that we saw in blue have a blue heading here. So there's table 1 through 4. And then the raw data in the sheets themselves actually come in as well. It is best practice to always select the tables because Power BI then brings in only the data that is in the table on and not anything that is in the rest of the spreadsheet. So your data is very clean and very safe. So there are two options to actually go from here. One is to transform the data that you have brought in, and the other one is to directly load the data into Power BI into a data model, okay, to create a data model. So we're actually going to transform this. And then the moment you click on transform, it brings up this wonderful editor called Power Query Editor, which is incredibly powerful. So we've got 4 of these queries for 4 of the tables that we have got from Excel. And then up top, you have a series of commands that actually help you modify the data set that you bring in. Okay, so let's see how. Now, the first table here is actually my cost table for Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. So I'm going to actually double click and change it to cost SMT. Then the second table here is actually the sales table for Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. So I'm going to call the sales SMT. The third one here is actually a cost table for Indonesia. So I'll say cost other. And then the last one down here is actually the sales table for Indonesia. So I'm going to actually say sales other. Okay. So in terms of transformations, since all of the tables look pretty much the same, I'm going to leave them alone for now. The cost SMT, since it's actually pivoted, we're going to actually unpivot this data. So I'm going to click on this, right mouse, and then say unpivot only selected columns here. Okay. So I'm going to do that. It's a fantastic 2-second thing. I'm going to actually like change this to date. And then if I click on this little square box here to the left of the name, it actually allows us to change the data type. In this case, date is actually a date and not a text column. So I made it into a date column. And then out here, the value here is actually a cost. So I'm going to actually call it cost. Okay. The product and the country are text fields and it looks fine to me. Let's check the others. So the sales here, dates, and the sales looks fine. Cost looks fine as well. And so does the other sales. Okay. So now let us actually grab hold of the sales SMT and the sales other and then append them together as one table. To do that, I'm going to select append queries, but I'm going to append them as new. I don't want to append to the existing sales SMT file. And then it brings up this little menu that says, what's your primary table, which is a sales other, which is sales SMT. And then I will append that to sales other. Okay. And this gets appended as a new query, as you can see. So I'm going to call the sales total. And what's happened here is that I've got 12 rows, 9 from sales SMT and 3 from Indonesia. And then I'm just checking to make sure that the date and the values are reflected properly. So let's do the same thing for cost and cost other. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to select cost SMT. And then what I'm going to do is to do the same exact thing as I did on the sales. So append queries is new, and then I've got cost other here, and then click on OK. So that actually brings the 2 tables together. So I'm going to call this cost other. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm going to call this cost total. Okay. From here, we want to actually bring the sales and cost totals together to build a P&L summary, profit and loss summary. Okay. To doing that, I'm going to actually like select this and get rid of all the zeros. So as you can see, if I click on this little guy here, little chapon looking thing, I can actually deselect whatever I want, filter out. I still have the data in Power Query, except that I'm actually filtering out the zeros so that the number of rows here and the cost are 12, the same as sales. So now I'm going to click on the sales total and then actually say merge queries and merge as a new query. I want to keep the sales total. And that brings up this menu that says, okay, select the tables and matching columns to create a merge table. So we have got sales total here. We've got the cost total there. As you can see, product, country, and date are common to both of them. And then we want to bring sales and cost into one table. So I'm going to click on product, use my control button, select product, cost, and date from both tables. And then lo and behold, using a left outer join, which is basically all of the columns from the left, a Power BI, Power Query rather, goes in and actually matches 12 of the 12 rows to bring into to do the merge operation. Now, likewise, you've got right outer, full outer joins, and these are joins that actually come from your SQL Server. Okay, so or concepts from the SQL Server of joins. Okay, so now I'm going to actually hit OK. And then lo and behold, I have a merged column here that I will call P&L summary. Okay, so this is product, country, date, the sales, obviously, because sales is the base table. And then you see these two arrows here. This cost total as of now corresponds to the cost table. So what I'm going to do is to click on this and say, I want just the cost column as I have everything else common in the sales table. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. And lo and behold, I actually get my cost here. So I'm going to rename this to cost and I'm good to go. All right. So I have my, how do you say, consolidated data. From here, I'm actually going to create a couple product masters, much like it is in a SQL database for that. And I'm going to create the ones for the attributes, which are product, country, and date. And then obviously sales and cost are actually values, which kind of define what the qualifiers are for product, country, and date. Okay, so I'm going to click on product. I'm going to add this as a new query, and then it brings up the sub menu where it has a list of items, and then I'm going to remove the duplicates because I want to make it a master, which means I have a unique set of products, and in this case, product keys. Okay, so I'm going to turn this into a table, and I don't want anything to do with that. So I will call this is a text field, and I'm going to actually rename this to product. Okay, so this is my primary key. Okay, usually all this data comes in from SQL, but since we're actually recreating a data model here from scratch, we need a product, how do you say, master table. I'm going to also actually duplicate this column by right mouse button clicking on it, and I will call this a category. And I'm just going to replace these values. If I go right mouse, replace values, and call this a biking category, and then saddles as well as biking category, and the cranksets as well as the biking category. Okay, I'm gonna just I just made up a category here. Okay, all right, so I've got my product master table here, and then I go back to my P&L summary, and then I add a country as a new query to create a country master table. And likewise out here, I'm going to remove duplicates, so I only have 4 of those, and turn this into a table. I don't need any of that. Click on this, make it text, and then set this column as country. Okay, so I'm done with the country master. Now I'm actually going to go get the dates. Click on the date and say add as new query. And then I'm going to remove duplicates, bring this into a table, and then call this the date master. Okay, And then since these are dates, I'm going to actually select the date itself and turn this into the heading into date. Okay. So now I'm done with all my transformations. It was that straightforward and simple. So from here, I can either continue to do my transformations, in which case I would say apply. If I don't want to actually retain any of these transformations, I'm going to close this Power Query editor. Or if I want to apply this and actually get back to the Power BI canvas, I'm going to say close and apply, which is what I'm going to do right now. So this says there are pending changes, that the queries have not yet been applied. And lo and behold, the queries are now being applied. All right, so it brings in the data from Power Query into Power BI. Until now, it was actually in Power Query in memory, but right now the connections are being made and the data is actually loaded to Power BI. Okay, and if I were to look at the fields now, the fields are actually populated with the tables. I do have Right. I have all the tables that I need. And if I want to look at the data, I can select the P&L summary, which is my consolidated data. And lo and behold, that is everything I need. I am going to actually go ahead and hide these additional tables in the report view. And let me go ahead and do that for all these additional files. Where is the side report view, cost total? I don't need this as well. Item reports view. I just need the masters. I'm gonna do that as well. Item reports view. And that's one. And then finally, this guy here. So I only have these four. And if I go to my model view, this actually shows the how do you say, the tables and the relationships that actually have been auto-generated. Now, if I go to manage relationships, I don't want to actually keep any of those relationships that Microsoft Power BI has auto-detected. So I'm going to select all of these and delete them because I want to create those relationships myself. Okay, so I'm going to delete these and close, in which case all these relationships kind of go away. So I need my country master. I don't need any of these tables. As you can see, they've been made sort of hidden in the report view. And I'm gonna make it full screen out here. I'm gonna bring my date master. I'm gonna bring my P&L summary up here. And then I'm gonna bring my product summary. I'm gonna move everything else out of view. Okay, like so. And let's make this bigger. So I see my master tables and the consolidated P&L summary is all I need here. In fact, I just realized that for the country, I don't have a region. So let's actually go back to Power Query. I'm going to edit this, which means I go back to Power Query. And if I were to look at my country master, I'm going to just duplicate this column and then call this region, and then go up here and replace this value and call this ASEAN. Okay. And then likewise do the same on the other ones. Replace here and call it ASEAN. Okay, and likewise do the same to this one as well. Okay, so that's a layer of aggregation from country to region. And I'm going to close this and apply and get back to Power BI, the data model view. Okay, and it should pick this up and we should actually see region pop right there. Okay, from here, I'm going to actually create, right now, there are no relations that exist between the P&L summary, the consolidated table, and the masters. So we'll have to create those relationships. So I'm going to select country, and then literally left mouse button on country, and then drop it on the country in the country master. Likewise, do the same for product, and then to date. Okay. So we've got these relationships. I'm going to just verify that it's actually going to the right one. And as you can see, the relationship is one to many because we literally have unique entities of country here and many values of country because it's a transaction table. And based on different dates, we have actually got multiple entries of countries for which we have got sales. Okay. Now this one here, so this is called as directionality. The cardinality here, if I click on this one, if I click on the thing and say properties, so the country to country is the relationship, and the cardinality is many to one. In this case, it goes from P&L summary to country, many to one. Likewise, you can have one to many from country master to P&L summary. And then the direction of filtering is actually single, and it actually goes only from the country master into the P&L summary. We'll talk about that a little later. Okay. With this, we have our data model complete. And this schema here is actually called a star schema, much like it is on a SQL Server. Okay. With this, we are actually ready to do our visualizations, okay, which we'll actually cover in a separate topic. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful enough for you to bring data, transform them, create a data model, to bring it up to a point where you can start actually analyzing and visualizing the data. Thank you very much.